there, Aquarius. Welcome to the first half of September 2025 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here. Thank you thank you to the person who pointed out that I hadn't posted Aquarius, but I guess I gave a bonus reading to Capricorn. So I don't when I first started, I used to do I used to post the videos from Aries until Pisces. And so that made it a lot easier to keep track. But I noticed that other astrologers or tarot readers were mixing it up. And I began to understand, when you're not putting them out at once, that certain people may feel like, oh, you always have us go last, and so I try to mix it up, but you got to keep aware of those things, what you've done, what you haven't done. Okay, in case you're curious, this deck is called the Flower Child Tarot. Okay. All right. Okay. So the heart of the matter is the Seven of Wands. This is a card of that frog guys that cracks me up, of a defensive stance or posture, but it's in the upright position. It's like very much indicated of like standing your ground and standing up for yourself and the right to be yourself or to do whatever it is that it is connected to. And I also think with this card that it can be, whether it's in a relationship or it's in the workplace, that it can be a card of being on the defensive of someone, like on a constant basis, a lot of criticism from a boss, a lot of criticism or negative feedback from a partner. And, depending on the circumstances, you may have tried to let it slide off your back or whatever, but it really is a negative influence, or maybe you have allowed something to slide for too long. But it's kind of like that, whatever that dynamic is with another person or other people, is that either you have the right to defend yourself, or maybe you feel like you're constantly put in that position. I always say, like, if you're with someone who constantly says, why do you do that? Or why do you do this? It's like they're trying to imply that the way that you do things is weird, or, trying to get you to be on the defensive, to try to defend yourself. That could be a very destructive relationship, because that person is really conveying a message of lack of acceptance of you the way that you are. So you have to kind of weigh your options if you find yourself in that sort of position. And one more thing that I want to point out, and this is I have like one deck, I think it's called the Wild Unknown, where they show like almost like a candle and a flame, like the eternal flame is how I see it. And I feel like it's, no matter what anybody says or does, that we have this eternal flame inside of ourselves of what it is, the dreams that we have, what we want to do, and that nobody can extinguish that. And that to me is also a possibility, because wands are fire, and fire is our individual selves. And so, because wands can be like our goals and things like that, it's our individual goals. We have goals as a collective, as humanity, but we have individual goals that are going to differ from person to person. And we have a right to those dreams. I could call them dreams too. In the past position is the Six of Cups. This is a card of the past. It's connected to the sign of Cancer, which is the sign of the past, the ruler of the fourth house of home and family and childhood. And this is also a card of soulmate. So if you have, for instance, if you happen to have run across maybe like a high school sweetheart, somebody from your past who maybe you haven't talked to in 20 years and you've rekindled some kind of connection with that person, and you're currently with somebody else, you may start to think, oh my gosh, that person was the one that I really loved all along. I never was really in love with this individual. Maybe it was on the rebound, but maybe it simply was that I forgot that there was such a love in my life. And maybe I just kind of chalked it up to being a teenager or something, that it was just this fantasy, that it wasn't real. And you discover that that was a person that you have loved all along. It can really be a conflict because you're embroiled with somebody else. And same with maybe you have rediscovered some sort of childhood passion, love for something that you always had within you, that eternal flame, but you weren't stoking it because you went in a different direction. That could be kind of coming up for you and kind of pointing in a certain direction that you may be wanting to go in. The higher message is the Devil card. The Devil card is lust, excessive materialism, and how people are chained to these kinds of things. So one big thing with your job or your career is money. And if something creates a good living for you on the material level, it can be very hard to let that go even if you feel a great sense of dissatisfaction or conflict about what that thing is. You may still feel compelled to stay in that type of job. And yet, the past is kind of coming back. And I've been hearing about this in terms of like the energy right now because of the eclipses that are upon us, that the past is really uh, coming in and having us kind of look at it again. I was laughing because I was one of the best ways for me to connect with the past is through music, and I was listening to some music from the last half of the 80s, and I was thinking how, and I had already graduated high school, but like how I thought music had gone downhill. And then I was listening to these songs, and when you listen to these songs that you remember when you were younger from the past, and you witness the emotions that come up, and they can differ. If you hear something when you're 10 years from when you were 10, from when you were 20, it's going to be different. And sometimes it's just kind of a fun thing, and sometimes it's kind of like uncomfortable. It's really a great tool for kind of like shadow work and unearthing those locked memories sometimes. So what crosses you is the Two of Pentacles. You may be really a bit, I don't know if I'd say confused, but it might be torn. So Pentacles can be anything practical, like your work mode, or like what type of work you're doing. For instance, it may also be that you are currently working two jobs, and that is making it hard for you to kind of focus on this theme that is emerging because you're just so busy with everything. And so, if you feel torn between two types of lifestyles and especially like types of work, you don't have to make a decision overnight, but it is good to like really think about what you're doing right now and how it makes you feel, because that will give you a lot of the information. What is coming in is the Nine of Swords. This is a card of anxiety. And I have been pointing out, because I don't, this deck is relatively new, but I love how they have, even though this looks a lot like the Rider-Waite imagery, they have these eyes. And I personally interpret that as other people's opinions of you staring at you in judgment, and that can be a lot of the fear. Now, Aquarius is a sign that tends to be like, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I'm going to do my own thing. But that's, that looks good on paper. But Aquarius, like as a sun sign, you might have a lot of inner planets in Capricorn or in Pisces that may make you more, prone to care. Maybe your moon is in Libra, and that can really make a person feel like they want to please others, for instance. So ask yourself, the choices that you've made. As I stated when I was talking about the Two of Pentacles, like how does it make you feel? If you do feel anxious or like there's some kind of lack of peace in your life, really try to get to the bottom of it. Yes, of course, sometimes it's going to be like financial. It's not just about greed. Sometimes it can be like, how if I were to leave this situation, how would I make ends meet? But sometimes it is about the opinions of others. And in that case, that can be like the easiest thing to kind of deal with, because you realize that you are the one that suffers trying to please other people, staying somewhere that you really don't want to be. The outcome is the Three of Pentacles, and this is a really hopeful card for money matters because it can indicate abundance. Number 3 is a card of growth. And even like with workplace matters, it suggests that if you are connected to coworkers, this is a card of teamwork. So it could be a situation, and even with the Devil card, sometimes I think of a narcissist that the person is dealing with, and that can also be a boss. And yet, and it's funny, it's right above this Three of Pentacles. Maybe the solution for you in that scenario, if you are dealing with a boss who is very critical and all of that, is to band with your coworkers and find a way to be a united front, because sometimes these kinds of people will like favor someone, and that will cause a lot of competitive tendencies. So you may find that devil is an illusion, that they can only operate when you're doubting yourself, when you're like wondering if you're okay or not. But it's just kind of like more of an illusion than anything else. And in your personal life, to understand that you can create growth for yourself, you can create more material abundance, you can experience growth in your life, that if you are debating whether or not to do something different, that it's really what makes you feel a sense of joy. And that's what, the number 3 is connected to kind of the the joyful spirit. So that's what I have for you, Aquarius. I hope that this resonated. If you would like an astrological reading, a tarot reading, or a combination thereof, I have, natal chart interpretations, transit readings. I have package deals. You can find out, and career, love readings. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for watching. Bye.